So there you go.
I got my water.
All right, well, I guess we're live. Just a heads up, everybody. This is Talkin Motorbikes, the Ask a Superbike Genius segment. Sorry we had to reschedule. I had to upgrade my internet from Prodigy to AOL or whatever. So I'm on again tonight with the Superbike Genius himself,
Yeah,
Richard
well, dial up.
Stanboli.
Yeah, I kept hearing that ringtone.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm usually on DSL, so we're
Oh,
all
you're on
good.
DSL? That's great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're on whatever. I don't think anybody even knows what the hell that shit means
I
anymore.
know. I just dated
You're
myself.
supposed to be the IT guy, and you couldn't get your internet working, huh?
Oh, dude, I tried to convince them to let me dial into their router so I could change the
I'm
settings.
surprised you didn't use your phone and and use that as a
Dude, I live in
hotspot
Palmdale, bro. Like, what do you want from me? Like, I think
out
yeah,
there with the desert. Right?
yeah, dude, the LTE here, man, it's pretty crap.
Hey, the housing is less expensive, but the AC costs a lot.
Not unless you have solar.
That's right. You told me you have solar, right? You're actually getting money back from the grid.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have solar out here, your electric bill in the summertime would be like $800.
Yeah,
So
you're a dumbass. We don't have solar out there.
yeah, you gotta have solar, man. Desert rat, desert rat or re.
All right, so you're good now. You got your internet all working. I got my
Yeah,
internet
man.
working.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about Road America. You guys had quite the colorful weekend.
Where?
Road America.
I can't remember that place.
Yeah. Uh huh. Yeah.
I scrubbed it from my memory.
I mean, you always say that you want tough competition, right?
I don't care about the competition. I just hate when the competition is us.
Right.
We're our worst competition.
Right. Right. So let's talk a little bit about the weekend. Yeah, I mean, it looks like practice one, CP45 only got a couple laps in. Jake got a few laps in, and the old man got a few laps in. I think he got like a dozen or so.
Yeah, he stayed out the whole session, the old man. You want to get to how we got to the old man?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that was the big thing. Posting a picture of the number 4 on the Superbike. That was pretty crazy. So
Yeah, it would have been cool to keep all three guys on there because I kind of miss the old man sometimes, because I worked with him for 3 years before, and then we
right.
had to race against him after that, and
Yeah.
that was no fun. But anyway, old man, we're talking about Josh Hayes, right?
Of course. Of course.
Yeah, so we were at Barber trying out some stuff that didn't work out quite well, and Cameron smacked his hand pretty hard, and it was swollen, and we thought it was broken, and then he went and got some X-rays, and he re-injured a spot that he had injured before, and I guess he's got some drama going on with that wrist with a bone that's dead and won't heal properly, and so there was just a lot of stuff going on with his wrist, and we didn't know if he was going to be able to race or not.
But he'll tell you, I'm good, dude. Right?
Yeah, whatever you ask him, I'm good. He turned the throttle with his left hand if he could. Like, can you put
Yeah.
the throttle on the left with a brake on the left and then put the foot pedal back, and he would do that.
Like that
But
guy at Isle of Man years ago, the Dunlop guy. What's his name?
dude,
Yeah.
have you ever gripped a bicycle with your arms backwards and tried to ride it?
Yeah, dude. Well, I mean, when you ride a mountain bike for the first time and you're used to the front brake being on your right hand.
No, no, I'm talking about just cross your hands
Oh, hell no. Hell
on
no.
the bars and try to ride a bicycle. If
Yeah.
you're any kind of natural, you probably fall over. It's
Yeah.
hard.
I mean, I know that back in the day, the guys at Freddie Spencer's school, like, Jeff Haney,
Yeah.
and a lot of those guys would go and instruct, and they would have their opposite hand on the throttle, and they'd be looking down and pointing at the corner. It's like,
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, so the,
yeah,
the motorbike will actually ride itself pretty much.
yeah,
But when it comes to like counter steering and getting in the corner hard, it takes a bit to get your head wrapped around something that's awkward. But anyway, we didn't do that. Yeah, so we were kind of iffy on Cameron being able to ride, even though he said he was a tough dude and he can ride, and which he is, and he is a tough dude. And so anyway, so we talked it over with Yamaha and went over, what are we going to do? We're kind of having a commitment, not necessarily with Yamaha, but with our other sponsors and Motor America being a premier team that we field 2 riders.
right,
I'm sure we could have skated out of it somehow, but how good would that look if you only put one guy on the track really you're contracted to do 2?
right,
And so just to fulfill our obligations, we gave Josh Hayes, since he was going to be there, a ring, and of course he was all about it. As a matter of fact, when TE rode our bike, TE24, Tony Elias, Josh was really upset because he was a past Yamaha champion and thought he should be able to do the fill-in deal. So I called him and I'm like, hey, be careful what you wish for because here's your chance because he's doing the 600 thing. I said, after all the crap you gave me for not being able to ride that bike, I figured, well, we better give you the shot. And he was like, well, I kind of wanted to concentrate on the 600. If Cameron can ride, then won't ride the rest of it, right? Is that cool? I'm like, yeah, sure. I mean, if Cameron can ride, that's the program, right? We want Cameron to ride. And he's like, okay. And so we went out and, Cameron did only a couple laps, but he didn't look hurt. And he was more pissed he couldn't ride his bike more. And anyway, so then Josh finished up the session. We finished up with him, and then we continued on with Cameron the rest of the weekend. Josh did come back after session one, going, so what's up for Q1?
Yeah.
I'm like, we're sitting out Q1. We got some technical issues we got to work through, so we're going to sit out Q1, get our heads straight, and then get back to Q2.
Yeah. So what happened? I mean.
Man, it's a long story, but it's not even that long a story. So our engines are really tuned for the fuel that we ran last year,
right?
Which was VP MGPs. It's a spec fuel. Everybody has to run it. Everybody but the baggers. Baggers are on a different kind of fuel. I don't even remember what they call it. It smells different too. So we ran that fuel all last year. Same thing like happened at COTA. Something changed in the formulation, and we show up at Road America and we hurt Cameron's engine, and then we started to hurt Jake's engine. So we stopped him, and then Josh ran the rest of it. Then we put a scope down the bore of that one. We hurt that one too. So it just started compromising. So we're like, you know what? We just hurt 3 engines in one session. So we better stop. Yeah. So I could show you some stuff. So anyway, before we get to why it is what it is, what happens is you get a fuel, and then you figure out how much energy you can get out of fuel.
Right.
So they call that thermal efficiency. So you put in a certain amount of fuel, you get a certain amount of energy. So on a Formula One car, they're right now reaching like 52% thermal efficiency. In other words, every drop they put in there, they get at least half it comes back and push on the piston, right?
Right.
Our bikes probably, if I had to guess, probably can do the math based on the power and this, that, but if I had to guess, I'm thinking somewhere around 28 to 30%.
Oh, wow.
Somewhere in that range, kind of like the old F1 cars, And so that's about where we're at. So it means that we're trying to get the most out of the fuel we possibly can. And the way you do that is a few different ways. There's like 3 really main ways. And one is you work on thermal efficiency through the compression side. So you increase your compression, and then you're able to make a bigger bang out of the fuel you have, pushing back on the piston. The other way is the volumetric efficiency, which basically allowing the air, more air to pass through the engine. So in other words, an engine's, let's say it's 1,000 cc.
Yeah.
And you're trying to get 100% or more volumetric efficiency by ramming more air through there, whether it's through the intake port, the intake going down the straightaway and getting more air than you're able to take in,
right, or
overlapping the camshaft. So when the exhaust pops open, it sucks more air through the intake. So there are engines that make even naturally aspirated more than 100%. So you're always trying to struggle to get the most out of it. So big camshafts, long duration, all that kind of stuff. So you work on that side, you work on the compression side, and then then there's a couple other areas, which is friction reduction, which is a free horsepower basically. So you reduce the friction in the engine by whatever, thin oil, coatings, bearing clearances, polished transmissions, all the things inside the engine. And then the last way, really the major way, is to take and lighten up all the masses on the crank but you really kind of limit it in our kind of racing because you can't do the crank like you can in MotoGP. Right. And there is a percentage, I think, in World Superbike you can do the crank. And then you do the clutch basket, and of course the gearbox. Now they allow gearbox. You can get a lighter set of gears and things like that. Maybe your drive chain is a little bit lighter or has less friction, like our DID chains which have very low friction. So all those things all add up, and all that adds up to power. So what we do all winter long is just lean on the engine, test, and see how much we can get out of it. So we had a pretty good combo all 2022 and going into 2023, and then we show up this race and things go sideways. So I can kind of show you an example some pistons. You want to see it?
Yeah, dude. Like I'm
Yeah.
sure
So
every
let me put that up.
hope you guys want to see it too, right?
I don't know. It's always interesting to me, but
All
maybe.
7 fans, right?
I listened to a Formula One symposium the other day.
Oh yeah.
So that's how boring I am. I think most people will turn it on and yeah, it was the CTO of F1, which is the chief technical officer, talking about all kinds of stuff. And I'm sitting there listening to it and replaying parts. And if I turned it on right now, half your viewers fall asleep. Well, you only have that'd be like half. Would that be like one of the two?
Oh yeah, 7, dude. It's 7.
It's seven. We're up to 7 now.
I
That's
think
pretty
we're up to
good.
7. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll let me go and open this thing up. So just an example. Okay, you see this?
Not yet. Okay, now I do. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Wow.
these two pistons here, right?
Yeah.
So these are both from the same engine on different builds.
Okay.
So this one on the left here is MGP, the fuel, and we ran this. It had this particular piston had 4 podiums, 4 wins
Okay.
in that engine in
Okay.
2022,
Including
and we also
America, right?
it also won at Road America.
Okay.
Yep. And so we tested with this particular engine here.
Yeah.
And also a button willow.
Yeah.
I think three out of the 5 times we were there, we tested with that thing. Whether it was 1 day or 2 days or whatever, we put 1,400 kilometers on this piston. So we look at it and go, yeah, it's a nice flame burn and it's a good color and all that kind of stuff for the type of fuel it is. It's not MR12 or whatever. It doesn't leave that same. This fuel looks a lot more like pump gas when it burns.
Yeah.
Which probably is pump gas. Yeah, probably is pump gas. So then we fast forward to 2023 Road America. We show up, 6 laps. See the burn on the corners of the piston?
Oh wow. Dude.
Same engine, same mixture, same timing, same intake, same camshaft, same everything, same oil.
Wow.
Go out and do 6 laps. So I sent this image and report to VP, and we'll see what they come back with.
Yeah.
And of course, they're probably going to come back and say we didn't change anything, which is what they do.
Yeah. I mean, I one of the 7 fans.
Well, VP is a gigantic company. Are you done with this screen share?
Yeah. Yeah. So.
Okay,
You know,
so VP is I mean, it started off with a couple of guys in Texas, and it grew to a pretty gigantic company. I have a lot of respect for that company.
yeah.
But this is one of the problems you have when you have a spec fuel. When you have a spec fuel, you have no competition in the paddock. Like a World Superbike, you have a regulation fuel, which is different than a spec fuel.
Okay.
So VP still says they fall under the FIM regs, but there's nobody really to police it.
Right.
Motor America is all taking it on faith that they're bringing the right fuel. So we don't know what's in it. We checked specific gravity, but that's only one measure of what the fuel has in it. It's just the weight of the fuel. We're just trying to see if it's just blatantly different.
Right.
And it was a little bit lighter than what we've had in the past,
Okay.
last year or whatever. And so it's back to this whole thing. Why does it happen to us? People might ask. It's because we lean on it harder than anybody probably. We try to get every little bit out of the fuel. And when the fuel is different, then it bites you. So do we leave a bigger safety margin? Probably have to. Maybe we have to tune for the least common denominator. We don't know what's in the fuel. That's the bottom line.
Wow.
And when they do change a formulation, so basically, I mean, think about it logically, right?
So they
You own a
don't
company that-
draft a memo or anything like that saying, hey.
They don't update you. They just say it's the same stuff. You can see a batch number on the drum. It's you're getting a different batch. Whatever. I don't know how many times they do a batch. I don't know how their production works. I don't know how their chemist works. I heard through the grapevine they have a new chemist, and the chemist is a little bit into maybe experimenting with other chemicals to produce the same stuff. And so I don't know what they're doing. I don't know if they're getting the raw fuel from a pump and then adding additives to it, or if they're producing all their own fuels. I don't know what their production is like. I just know that we showed up with the same engine and got a different result. So I know at the end, the fuel is not the same. Without a doubt, the fuel is not the same. Again, we weren't the only ones that weekend that suffered a bit.
Yeah.
I think I don't know if that's the case, but I heard some other even super sport level guys
Right.
were having some detonation issues. And also, even Heron's bike, I think, smoked after day 1. He had to sit out part of Q1. He had a mechanical. I don't know exactly what his mechanical was, but they were pitted next to us, and his bike was puffing a little bit of smoke. So, kind of looked about the same type of crap.
Yeah.
I know those guys had fuel issues last year about the same time we had fuel issues at Coda
Right.
last year when we went, and then we came back and we reformulated our whole cylinder head plan to match the fuel we had in 2022. We tested all winter with that. We got 55-gallon drums from the place here in in the desert out there, Temecula, wherever VP's at. So we were getting 55-gallon drums from there, testing, looking at pistons. We're always scoping the cylinder just about every weekend. We were looking at, people saw us pulling the air box off, getting the camera out, looking at the pistons, and everything was good. We show up to Road America and we do 6 laps. So it's pretty disappointing that we had to go and do the mad scramble, put all our, change all of our strategies. We lowered the compression, we pulled timing back, we added fuel, anything to keep the thing cool and let it burn cool. So it was a bit of a nightmare, but we got through it and we got some points and we still came out with a points lead. So now we have a couple weeks to go back and, we sent an email off to the guys at VP and say, what's up, what changed?
Yeah.
And they're going to the lab and the chemist to ask them if anything changed. So they probably, again, that's the problem when you have a spec fuel and not a regulation fuel. Regulation fuel, you can have multiple vendors that are competing. And like in World Superbike, multiple vendors, MotoGP, you got Elf, you have Shell, you have Shell does a Ferrari F1 car, they do the Ducatis, they have ETS and even VP was certified at one point to, I think it is on the list, the MGP as a spec fuel. I probably wouldn't run it because we know we can't get the energy out of it we want. So when we had the ETS over at Portimao, I mean, all our stuff came out looking beautiful, and the wear and tear on the pistons were nice, and everything was good. Yeah, and when we had the MGP burning right, everything was good then too.
Yeah.
You take a piston out, and it looks like you didn't even run it. It looked like it was in there for 200 miles maybe, or 200 kilometers.
So there's actually a fan asking about this. There's a couple of questions actually. So
yeah,
we already answered Bearded Jixer's question about whether or not they sent you a memo saying they changed something, but he also says he thinks Montiato in Supersport got a meatball for smoking on D-cell.
yeah, I think I saw that.
But 848 Evo says at this level you should be able to use something like MR12.
No, MR12 doesn't fit the regulations. So MR12 I do believe is leaded, so is U4.
Okay.
And so everything's been going to what's that called? Not renewables, I think. Everything's headed towards renewables. So Formula One's already
green, right?
Formula One's already gone to E10.
Okay.
And they struggled a bit with getting that E10 right, but I mean, with their efficiency numbers, 52%. They're boosting hard. It's just crazy what they do in Formula One to get every little bit of energy out of that fuel. So then you have, if you look at the FIM regs for our fuel, they allow 10% ethanol. So basically, I wouldn't doubt if that VP, it says contains ethanol on the jug. I wouldn't doubt it's E10. So if it's E10, they should just tell us it's E10. They should be a little bit more forthcoming as far as, hey man, we changed the formulation, we added more ethanol, so you guys better watch your tune.
Okay.
In this batch. So again, that's when you're the sole supplier, right? What are you motivated by? Profit, right? Cutting costs, increasing profit. Especially if you have to put the stuff, all these drums, and then the series is crying about, oh my God, we need to lower the cost, lower cost. That's all I hear, lower cost, lower cost, lower cost.
Yeah.
So we get a crappy fuel that's low priced, right? And then we burn down $30,000, $40,000 in engines in one day. So how's that cheap?
Right.
And other people hurt engines too. So how's that cheap for them?
Right.
It's not. I'd rather pay double or triple and save my 30 grand.
Yeah, I mean that Zach Butler guy, he brought out the red flag when he oiled up the track, right? So, apparently he was on an R1 as well.
Yeah, I don't, you know,
I don't know why he
there's,
popped. I don't know if it was.
I don't know. I can't speak to whatever happened to him. I don't even know him. I don't know him, but maybe Joseph knows him. But some engines can handle it a little better. Like the Ducati's got depth sensors on it. At least
Yeah.
stock, I know it does. I don't know if the kitted one does. I imagine they kept it. It's got a couple Bosch depth sensors on it. So when they hear detonation, if you put a crappy fuel, did I say Ducati? I meant BMW.
Right.
So if you, I wouldn't doubt the Ducati's got it too. But when you hit when the ECU hears the detonation, it'll roll back the timing. So it'll have full boogie until it drives through that spot and then back to full boogie again. So it allows them to run crappy fuel a bit longer
Okay.
before it bites them.
Okay.
You know. So in my opinion, the fuel's total crap, and VP could do a lot better. They're a gigantic company. They make really good fuels for other series.
Right.
But I think in this particular case, they're just bargain basement, a little better than pump gas. I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
We know it is. You
Yeah. I
know,
mean, we
and
might as well just say, let's race on, the local Arco 91, right?
I think we might do better with it. But so then you get into, why are some engines more effective than others? The ringland on the R1 is really close to the intake pocket. So it's if you went back to that picture, you'd see the intake usually gets damaged first.
Right.
It's super thin in that area. So it can't dissipate heat very well in that little area. So whenever the fueling is off, it's going to go right to it.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're off by a little bit, then the aluminum starts to get hot. The aluminum turns into basically thermite when it's in there. You get aluminum oxides going off and burning, and it just accelerates the burn.
Yeah.
It just goes down quick. And yeah, it's quite unfortunate, but we'll get our head around it, and we'll dumb down the end. We don't even need fast engines for the next 5 or 6 rounds.
You're right.
Because the only one need another fast. I mean, we need it for this particular race, which we thought we had a good one, but we didn't. And then for the rest of them, a couple hundred horsepower would be fine.
So what did you do to address the issue to where the engines would live?
I'm sorry?
I said.
Oh, to where we live?
Yeah.
I thought I just went over that.
No, I mean, what?
You weren't were you playing? Were you talking on your phone while were you texting someone?
I mean, oh.
Yeah, you ever go to dinner with someone and they're like this?
Oh my God.
And you're carrying a conversation and you go, dude, are you listening? What? Yeah. I heard the part where you said.
I guess I was asking you for more specifics. I'm sorry.
Oh, well, I don't want to get too into specifics.
Yeah,
but
okay.
Basically, we dumbed down the engines so that it could handle the crappy fuel.
Okay. So I guess that would explain, I have a question about somebody about did the fuel engine configuration play a significant role on the reason why the R1s were down on top speed on the front straight?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we were 10K faster in the last corner than when you got to 100% throttle. If you did the overlays, he was 10 kilometers an hour faster in speed, Jake was, than last year on the exit of the last corner.
Yeah.
So if you're carrying 10K more and you only end up with the same top speed as you did the previous year, let's say, that means your engine's slower.
Right.
Yeah. Than it was last year. So if you want to do A equals B, B equals C, therefore A equals C, blah, blah, blah.
And there goes your algebra lesson for the day.
Yeah, high school algebra. What was that, junior high school algebra? I don't know.
To some people, right? Some people could have been junior high, but
Yeah.
Yeah, 9th grade probably.
Yeah.
Wow, man. Okay, so you guys go out and you get a qualifying time. I mean,
So we skipped Q1.
Yeah.
So we can pull the heads off, have a look. We pulled everything apart, have a look, reconfigure, put it all back together, and then by 7 or 8 o'clock we're out of there, and we were at our favorite pub by 8:30.
Nice.
Ready for the next day,
Yeah.
Because we have a good crew, we can bang stuff out. Engines go in and out fast, and heads come off and on fast, and we just once again we're like, okay, let's get it.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, so we skipped Q1. We have good riders. They don't need a whole lot of time on track, but the negative was if this was the old track, we would have been fine, but the new track was a bit of a challenge. It might as well have been a different racetrack.
I mean, I had Cody Wyman on the show the other night, and he was talking
Yeah.
about locking up the front brake and stuff. Like,
Yeah. Oh, that was pretty common. Yeah. Our guys did it too. You grab it as soon as you turn it in. First session, Hayes was like, "Hey man, this thing's just moving around like it's bending the forks." I go, "Dude, you're not bending those forks. You know, it's a feeling you're getting." And then of course he had the sensation the bike was too soft. And so the bike's not too soft. The reason is that there were none of those stutter cracks all through the carousel. There was nothing to feel. So when the thing is all plush like that, or feeling like plush, it kind of confuses you and think, man, this thing is really plush.
Yeah.
You know, when you have a pair of 11s in the forks, it's not that soft.
No, man.
You know, you need to grab like 14 bar brake pressures to get them to compress. But so that was an issue with the feeling of the track. It was actually so smooth and so high grip that nobody, like, they didn't have any movement in there to give them a feedback.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when you go over a little crack or some type of undulation in the track, you get that little bit of quick, rapid jarring, you know, especially at that high speed. You go, okay, yeah, my suspension's moving. This is where I'm at. I know the feeling. And these guys went in there, and it's like, what's going on underneath me? I have no idea.
Wow.
So the more you rode the track, the faster you got. As you could see, our guys got going faster, faster, faster all the way to race 2. You know, they're doing low 10s, almost in the 9s on race 2.
Right.
Yeah, and I think Jake would have gone in race 2. I mean, Jake, I think, would have gone quite a bit faster if Cambobier didn't pull off. You know, with the mechanical.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, go for it.
That was kind of an even swap, right?
Yeah, we broke a clutch in race 1. Unfortunately, it's really weird. It's been a really weird year where the stuff you know works all of a sudden doesn't work. Like the fuel, for instance, I thought we had our heads around it, and now it doesn't work. So we've got to go back to the fuel guys and go, "What did you change?" You know, and of course their reaction would be, "Oh, it's the same thing we've always brought." No, you didn't. No, it's not.
Right.
No, I'm not buying it. I got the evidence right here.
Yeah.
It's not the same. So anyway, without going to, I mean, there's nothing we can do about it because it's a spec fuel. It's the rules.
Yeah.
Only thing we can do about it is try to adjust as we go and try not to get bit by it.
Yeah.
You know, as they throw these little zingers at us. So a little more background. VP was trying to introduce another fuel called MGPR, and they were telling us that it was better and cost less, like $1 a gallon less or something, or whatever, 50 cents a gallon less. So we put it across the Superbike Council, and everyone said, no, we want to stay with what we have. They're supposed to be after Daytona. They're supposed to purge out all the old MGP and introduce the MGPR. So I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but is it possible that they did that? Don't know.
Yeah. Who knows?
I don't know.
Right.
Because we all said, no, let's stick with what we have. We all know what it's doing. We don't want to suffer through any more BS this year. Let's just stick with what we have. And next winter, like, it was too close. Like, after Daytona, we got to just pour in different gas and go racing. You know, so we said, no, let's wait till winter time, and then we get a chance to test it on the dyno, test the track, come up with the proper thermal efficiency numbers for that fuel, you know, what we're trying to get out of it, and try to drive our bike as hard as we can.
Right.
You know, I mean, think about it. How important is the fuel? It is the number one thing it is the only thing that makes the bike go forward.
Yeah.
That's how important it is. Nothing else makes the bike go forward without fuel.
Right. Okay.
You know, so that's how important it is. Anyway, so yeah, back to race 1. Yeah, so we've been running this lightweight clutch they've been using World Superbike. You know, low mass clutch, trying to do that other part of that 4 things I talked about, which is try to reduce the rotational inertia of the engine. You know, try to get a little better acceleration out of it, and so this aluminum clutch up just exploded, and of course the thing didn't go forward. So
right.
And that was like the cherry on top for that day.
It's like, man.
But you know what? That's just the way it is when you're like last year. You know, we had the deal at Coda, and then Jake got all wound up at Atlanta and crashed the thing, and they crashed the thing at Brainerd, so he's double zeroed there. And it's just drama, which makes it interesting for the fans.
Yeah. Yeah, there was
You know,
people
oh,
saying,
they're
"Oh,
out. Oh, now Bobier's out.
yeah, yeah." I mean, there was a bunch of people saying that you sat out on Q1 to make it interesting. It's like, I don't
Yeah,
think so.
it was interesting for my blood pressure. So
Oh
anyway,
man.
here's a little hub thing. That's what I like props, right?
Yeah, yeah, you're a
So
props
this is the
guy.
little hub thing that can you see it?
Oh shit. That's
So this little spline is where the transmission shaft goes through,
okay.
and these little guys are what drives the clutch hub.
Oh
So it
wow.
went booey.
Wow, it looks like I might get some new wall art out of that.
Yeah, this would be some more wall art. I'm gonna stop with the wall art for you.
I mean, this wall art right here behind me is pretty cool. Like, I mean,
Yeah, that was that rod bolt thing. Another
yeah,
first for the year.
yeah.
Never seen that before. We're against a lot of never seen that before things. So maybe we'll just keep, I mean, think about it. We
Dude,
keep
I could
going
have my
faster and
wall covered
faster.
in wall art if this shit keeps going
No,
well.
no, no, that's it. You're not getting any more. It's over. We get this little clutch hub thing. We're going back to steel ones, like heavy duty steel ones.
Okay.
And I guarantee that thing won't break ever again.
Like I kind of want that piston too.
The what?
I kind of want that fucked up piston.
Yeah, well, I have like 12 of them.
Oh, I bet. I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's people going, "Can I have a piston, please? I'll pay shipping." We should sell them.
Uh, yeah. We, if we can just split them in half.
We could do like
Send
a
'em out to
contest
people.
or something. Be like, "Hey,
Wow. Can I get Jake to sign it?
dude, that."
Jake and Cam Pistons.
Oh man.
I don't know if those guys want to sign that.
Oh, I'm sure they
Like
wouldn't.
it wasn't exactly our finest moment.
I sent Cam P a picture of that plate. I was like, dude, I have the connecting rod from your Road Atlanta engine. The Fireball thing. I got no response from him.
He's not that big on returning text messages apparently.
No, no. But
I heard that from a number of people.
usually he'll respond to me, but not that one. I was like,
He's a
okay.
good dude. I like working with him.
Yeah, yeah, he's fun. And you know
Yeah.
what? I gotta give him.
I was kind of looking forward to working with Hayes too, though.
Yeah. Well,
That'd been fun.
having Hayes in under the tent, it's almost like getting the band back together, right?
Yeah, the only problem is with older, experienced riders is they bitch a lot.
Oh yeah.
It's just
Just
what they do.
okay.
Because they know better.
Somehow I can't picture Josh bitching a lot, but maybe.
I guarantee he'll be like trying to tweak all the way until Sunday.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
but I don't
fair.
know. I haven't worked with him in decades.
Yeah.
The one test we did.
Right.
But he got his first championship with us. I think that was our first. No, our second Suzuki championship was with
Yeah.
him. First one was Pridmore.
Yeah, I mean, we were
That was his
talking
first
about that,
championship.
because a friend of mine after race two, obviously Josh Heron won race two, and he was talking about on the podium about how he had now won races on 3 different manufacturers, and he kind of thought, my buddy thought that was like a super rare thing, and I'm like, well, yeah, it's a super rare thing. Most riders don't ride for 3 manufacturers to win, right?
Well,
Um,
he actually won. He
Josh
actually
Hayes did.
rode for 4 manufacturers. He rode for all the Japanese, all the big four. He
Yeah,
rode for Kawasaki with us. He rode with Suzuki with us. Then he rode for Honda, and then he rode Yamaha.
yeah. So
So he's got a lot of experience. So it'd been kind of cool to have him on for the whole weekend. Maybe we would have gotten some good info on the bikes.
right.
Like for instance, here's a for instance. When he rode the bike at that Dunlop test that we did, it was kind of a Dunlop test. It wasn't really a
Yeah.
Dunlop test. With Pridmore, we had the 3 champions, which we didn't make a big fuss about. We should have. Kind
And
of blew
me.
that
And
deal.
me.
Yeah, and you rode it. Yeah, but you're not a champion. You're not a champ. You're a chump. But anyway,
At least I'm not plump anymore.
you're not a plump chump.
Right.
Anyways, and Gagne ride the R1s, right? Superbikes. And Hayes rode it, and he's like, hey, you know what, man? The TC hits hits pretty strong. It feels like it's moving the front end that you could tuck the front end. And so that was some pretty good information for us that like somebody Gagne would just drive through that spec, that section. He would just power through it, and he wouldn't even feel it. But Cameron was feeling it a little bit and thought it was maybe some front chatter. It turned out to be it was like just the TC shaking the bike. And so as we went on to what they call a TRM, the traction control, which is the throttle side, it actually smoothed the thing out. So we kind of eliminated a lot of that. But Hayes kind of pointed out first. So it'd been interesting to have him ride the whole weekend and see what kind of other things he could bag on and complain.
Of course.
Whine.
Right. So, obviously that happened, and then a couple laps later, Zach, brought out the red flag, and then, as a result, the race was done.
Yeah, that's kind of a bummer because I think Cameron had a shot at going a little forward because he was getting faster. He was starting to reel in Escalante.
Right.
Escalante was riding really good.
Dude, Escalante's been riding pretty well, considering.
Yeah, I'm a Richie fan. Yeah, I worked with him a little bit before when he was riding that 600.
Oh, that's right.
That R6.
Baca's deal, right?
Yeah. The whole team was a bit of a nightmare. It was the mean team.
Right.
And that's how I met Will.
That's right. You got Will through me.
Yeah. Will like he put up with all the crap on the team and showed up, and he was always happy, smiley dude. I'm like, I gotta hire this dude.
Yeah.
We started our own team.
After the red flag, I know that we shit on the baggers, so I just gotta say, we had to borrow the bagger pace car for that, because Superbike oiled the track. So.
Oh yeah. It happens.
Yeah, it's pretty rare to. Usually, the belly pan will contain the oil, so.
It'll contain it enough to where it's only a few spots and can clean it up real fast.
Right.
If it can't contain all of it and it goes for a long ways, then it's a problem.
Right.
So usually when you have a catastrophic failure, the guys just pull right off. The riders do. They're smart enough to do that. So apparently on the baggers, they don't even feel it. They just keep driving around until all the oil comes up. But you know what? Those guys have been really good about it this year.
Dude, they really have, and
so I'm glad about that.
And honestly,
that was the only problem I had with those things. Other than I think it's kind of funny to have bags on a bike, road racing.
Yeah, it's weird.
It
is weird. I mean, I was talking to Cody, and he was like, "Man, it's so fun to ride." I was like, "Really?" Like I don't know. I take all of their word for it, But yeah, it's.
Yeah, I know Bobby Fong was riding that thing, and I guess he crashed it. I remember hearing on the PA about how he was trying to save it. I'm like, dude, when that thing's falling over, there's nothing you can do about it. It kind of takes over for you,
I mean, there's been some pretty good ones, where the guy's like full lock sideways, like full lock handlebar to the lock, and he brings it back in line and makes the turn. Tyler O'Hara,
It's kind of the NASCAR of motorcycles, right?
Yeah.
It makes that loud noise, big 2-cylinder, gigantic pistons.
I mean, honestly, it's, when they were going down the straightaway at Road America, it sounded cool on TV. It had to have sounded even better in person. Kind of like at Daytona.
It's all background noise to us. We're working so hard in the truck.
Yeah.
We hardly even get to watch. I don't watch any of the other races other than maybe the last few laps of Supersport because we're up next.
Yeah.
So we'll go out, put the bikes out, and we'll see the last few laps of Supersport and go, oh, hey, Hayes is there, or oh, hey, Hayes faded.
I'm being told that my microphone sounds really low, which is really weird. And it sounds
Turn up the volume.
It's all the way up, man. I don't know.
Should I turn mine down? Would that be better?
Nah, it's fine. Like it's as up as it's gonna go, dude.
Just put your mouth up against it.
Like that?
Yeah.
Wow, man. Yeah. So I mean, the reality is.
Speak louder.
Yeah, I guess I'll have to sound off like I got a pair. Is that what you're gonna tell me?
First time I addressed the platoon, or I think it was the battalion, and they're like, "Speak up! I can't hear you back here." God damn, I'm yelling.
Yeah, so in race one, obviously it was Bobier, Heron, and PJ, right? And then we had to go to race two, and I think Cam in race one finished fifth, right?
Yep. No,
Fifth.
fifth. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
race one.
Because Escalante was fourth,
Right,
so we're fifth. Yeah.
right. Because Jake was fourth, and at the time he DNF'd.
No, Jake was in front of Escalante, I think.
Yeah, fourth.
He was fourth. That's right. They
Yeah,
promoted Escalante to fourth, and then we were
correct.
fifth.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then race two. I mean, it was quite a bit better for the boys, but you could tell the straightaway speed was pretty bad. I mean, the camera shot where the guy was flying the helicopter over, and Bobier just went right by on the straight, like he wasn't even there.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean those things are rocket ships.
Yeah,
They're definitely fast. Don't handle all that great, but the like you saw Barber. I mean, they got smoked at Barber, right? So when you get to a technical track, I think they struggle. The the type of pavement that they had, the amount of grip that they had, I think was ideal for a shitty chassis. So if you don't have a chassis that handles, Road America seemed to make up for it this year
hmm,
because there was so much grip you could apply the power no matter what your settings were.
right.
The biggest struggle there was we had to run such hard tires that the corner entry on the rear wasn't there.
Wow.
So the guys were real apprehensive, especially our guys. They didn't get their heads around how to get into the corner, and we were just starting to get our heads around the chassis settings to get into the corner, give the guys the feel they want to get in there. Race two said, you know what? It moved around going in, and you just had to have faith it was going to stick. So the faster you put on the edge of the tire, the better it stuck when you got there.
Right.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
Like the initial movement of it kind of freaked you out a little bit, wondering if it's going to come around, but it didn't. So I
So
think I think there was a low amount of crashes there too. I don't know if that's the case or not, but it seemed like we didn't have hardly anybody crashing.
yeah, it didn't seem like a lot of crashes like you've seen before.
I
Um,
mean, the track was like Velcro, so we were applying as much power as we could for the amount of power we were able to produce that day with the fuel we had. So I know the BMW was able to put down more.
hmm,
So that meant that their lap time was going to be better. They could accelerate off the corner better. So
right.
we were wondering about it. What's the track going to do? I said, if there's grip, we're in trouble. If there's no grip, we're great because we
Right.
know we could produce grip. We can jump off the corner real good. So that's why I'm kind of looking forward to going to Ridge because the grip is back to normal. You run with the R3 rear tire and you're struggling for grip and the heat comes up and everything gets greasy and you're struggling for grip. I think those are situations that we do well at.
Right.
When the conditions are really, really hard, we do well at, and our riders do well at. I think when it's like a lean over and open the throttle, I think that's another reason why Escalante was going so fast because he's a 600 rider, right?
Yeah.
Getting his head around the leader bike and suited Heron style too, which Heron is not a pick it up and slam the throttle open guy. If you look at Batista, he rides. He's a little guy, but he rides a bike like a big guy. He'll jump off the corner, he'll snap the thing up on the tall of the tire, and so he's got the whole package. He gets in the corner, he carries lean angle, hangs off the bike, and then snaps it up. You watch Heron ride, he's like a single story type guy. He leans over, he arcs the corner, opens the throttle, which works great at Road America, the current Road America.
Yeah.
So if we were to go back there next year, then we would have to kind of rethink that. Our strategies to be a more of a 600 style corner speed type deal.
Yeah. I mean, Cody the other night was telling me that going through the carousel, he just kept leaning the thing over and he's like dragging his elbow on the ground. He's like, "Oh man, this thing still has grip." Like all the
Yeah,
way to
yeah,
full pancake
yeah.
for
I could show you some data of how the differences between 2022 and 2023 and the
okay.
amount of grip that you had.
But let's I got a couple of comments first,
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
wow, Matty Testa's got a few comments. When going to
You
Road
only gets
America,
one.
well, they're all kind of combined, so
Are they? All right.
yeah, but basically it's like outside of the fuel issue, how much are you changing the electronics to compensate for mechanical grip? And
A
um,
lot.
and do you think it'll be a tires and grip issue with the new Laguna surface, because Laguna's got new pavement now too, apparently.
Yeah, the Laguna thing, it might be a problem because not necessarily for us, but maybe for everybody. I
Okay.
don't think Laguna you can put the power down like you could at Road America. The straightaways aren't that long. You're constantly wheeling, constantly. So you're always having to cut power. Going up that hill on the backside, towards corkscrew, you're wheeling in there. You try to turn right and then left. So there's a lot of action going on the bike, and there's a lot of control on the bike. And I don't think changing the surface is going to make a difference on that. Like you're not going to be able to all of a sudden go, oh, I'm a 600 rider. I can ride like a 600 Laguna. I don't think that's possible.
Mm,
Up over turn one and braking hard in turn two, all that stuff. Talking about going up over turn one, you need good control on the bike. You need to be able to have all your anti-wheelie working good and all your torque control and all that stuff blapping through the gears all the way to six up over that rise. I mean, your gear's so short at Laguna because you're going first through six down that straightaway, that front straightaway. You know how
right.
short that is. So we use all six gears there. Some guys only use second through fifth. We use first through six. So all that is going to allow us to use whatever power we have. It's not going to be an issue with power.
Okay.
It's not like all of a sudden somebody's going to pull up alongside you coming out of that last turn because they're struggling for anti-wheelie and all that too. So the better
Okay.
you control the strategies, Laguna, that's the winning combo. And so we'll see how it goes. Obviously, Cam Bobier is super fast at Laguna, and so we're going to have to race him there. And I think PJ will go good, and so will Skoltz. So will both of our guys. So it should be an interesting race. Tire choice is probably a bit of a challenge. Let's see
Right.
how much abrasion is because it seems like these new tires, Dunlop, it seems like they tend to be a little less forgiving with the temperatures and the abrasion than the previous
Really?
generation stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what we've seen. I mean, at Barber we struggled there. It's no different pavement. That to actually cut this race short, right? That's what I gotta say about Dunlop. Back to the fuel VP thing. You get what you get, and that's what you get. Sorry, Charlie, we got no techs of the track to help you. But with Dunlop, I mean, Hunter, our guy, he bounces back and forth between us and I think Westby guys possibly, and he's got his hands in it. He's one of the guys working on the tires and working on the. So he's getting feedback from us. They're developing their tires. They're developing the compounds, or they're constantly talking about different things that they're going to be doing or how the tires are working. So they're pretty deep into it, trying to develop a good tire. I think that carries over to their Q line, on the street. So I'm pleasantly surprised with how Dunlop is cooperating with the teams. Just sometimes they misfire a little bit. Like there is an abrasion issue with this latest generation of tire compared to last year. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes in Laguna. I mean, it's going to be the same for everyone, like I will say. I
Right.
think that just Road America was just such a big difference in grip that it really helped guys that rode like a 600 and guys had a bunch of power.
Yeah, so there's some questions coming in about whether or not you guys have tested at Laguna since the pavement, but they're actually doing it like right now. And the
Yeah,
track the
I
track
hear.
was the track was closed earlier because they rebuilt the bridge that's on the front straightaway,
Yeah.
and that took
Did
a
they push back
long.
that turn?
I don't know if they did or not, but I know that
Probably
they
not.
they rebuilt the bridge, and that took a long time. And as everybody that's in California knows, that we had basically an uncharacteristic like 4 months of nothing but rain. So I'm sure
It
that had
wasn't
it.
4 months, but it felt like it.
It sure felt like 4 months.
Yeah, every day it rained. It was pretty wacky. At
Yeah.
least every evening, every day. And we needed it.
I mean, it's pretty rare to have lakes at Buttonwillow like we had, right? So at the tests. So
Yeah.
yeah, so there nobody's tested at Laguna. I know there were some car races there recently, but I think since then they started tearing up the pavement. So hopefully it'll be good. I'm looking forward to riding on it. It's always fun to ride a new pavement. Almost always. Almost always.
I don't know. Remember, if you remember Laguna back in 2000, what was it? Was it six? I think
Yeah,
when they repaved it right before MotoGP.
yeah,
and the whole hillside basically fell down, like the asphalt was coming off.
It's peeling up, and they had to like do a late night patch or whatever.
Well, they were patching it up in the middle of the night. I
Yeah,
don't know how the hell that's possible with MotoGP bikes. And then the MotoGP said, nope, AMA is not riding until we're done.
right.
I don't know if you recall that.
Yeah, I do.
Because they were afraid the track was going to fall apart. I mean, the track was so bumpy and so shitty, it was unbelievable. And that was a fresh pave job.
Man.
So I think Laguna probably learned something from there. So I'd be curious to see how they do it, you know?
Yeah. There's a guy, Robbie Galura. He says we need attack merch. Yes, I've been tasked to make attack hats. I got to get a certain logo from Richard first, but as soon as I get those, there'll be hats available soon, right?
Yeah.
Some kind of ball cap.
Man, we're so busy making everything else happen. It's like merchandise is like so low on the list, but you know, it should be up there. I hate to compare myself to Ferrari or us to Ferrari, but Ferrari I think makes more money on merchandise they do selling cars.
Right, right. Harley probably too, right?
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I think all of Ferrari's car sales, I remember seeing a stat like this once, it doesn't pay for the F1 program.
Really. But the T-shirts
Well,
do.
at $1 million, a little over $1 million per engine,
Right.
you know, I mean, it's ridiculous money. It's crazy money.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's a bunch of people saying they hope Yamaha funds the attack super sport effort with Rocco. A lot of comments on that.
Yeah, I mean, you never know how things are going to go in this sport, you know.
Yeah.
So I know that Yamaha's probably has a 5-year plan. They usually plan out pretty far, so they probably already set as far as how they're going to spend their money, or they know how much money they're going to spend. And you know, unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know. It depends on what side of the fence you're on. The Supercross side is pretty expensive,
Yeah.
so we're relatively, you know, not bargain basement, but we're pretty inexpensive regard in relation to Supercross. So we know where the you know the priorities are basically. So hopefully, Yamaha's been around a long time. They've been racing for who knows how long since they climbed Mount Fuji with that bike way back when. You know. And so I don't think they're going to go anywhere. But I just don't know how involved they will be with super sport, superbike, and things like that in the next year or two, couple of years.
Yeah. Um, Pinky's asking if would you consider Rocco on the Superbike?
Um, I don't know. You know, I mean, there's a lot to learn between super sport and superbike.
Right.
So it's kind of like when I guess the answer would be maybe kind of a no, you know, because there's so many experienced riders that know superbikes. That's the problem. But as the paddock gets a little bit bigger, you know, you now have 2 BMW rides that didn't exist before, right?
Right.
And then I don't know if Bobby Scheck and HSBK and those guys from New York and Faraci will put a second bike on the track. Maybe they'll put, which would be really good if they put the Supersport guy on now, you know, Forez. They
Right.
put Forez on him. That dude's a real deal. He knows how to ride a motorcycle. He's ridden World Superbike, all that stuff. He's learning the tracks. But man, I think he'd be pretty potent next year if they
Oh yeah.
put the two guys on Superbikes,
Right.
which might be their plan. That might be their long-term plan. I could see that. So now you're really, you know, getting a pretty deep Superbike field with really experienced riders. You're starting to think more like World Superbike. You know, so you know when Toprak went and tested the MotoGP bike, you know, Lynn Jarvis talked about it. He says we just don't have a B team to be able to get somebody developed. It's going to take more than just a couple of tests to get them up to speed with all the goodies that are on those bikes.
Right.
It's the same kind of thing with our program. To go from a super sport bike to our bike, there's a lot of things on the bike that the rider needs to understand and use and utilize properly. It's not just open the throttle and hold on. You know, so it'd be tough to put someone on that isn't experienced. But then again, on the flip side, you got Ducati, who's all about low dollar MotoGP riders straight out of Moto2 that don't care, you know, don't have a bunch of baggage. They're not old. They don't require a gigantic salary. I think they're
Right.
paying some of the guys less than some of the Moto America guys are making, you know, riding MotoGP. But obviously high high salaries for as far as bonuses go and championships.
Right.
So you got these guys, they say, hey, flip this button, do this, do that down the straightaway. And they're like, oh, sure, no problem, I'll do all that. Sometimes you work with guys like, hey, did you push the up button on the TC? Oh, yeah, I forgot. Hey, can you do that next time? Sure, man, I'll do it. Come back, and you push the up button on the TC after lap 4? No, I didn't do it. Like, why didn't you do it? I don't know, I forgot.
You got to remind him on the pit board.
There are guys like that. They're just so focused on what they're doing and ride so natural, they just don't do anything else.
Mm.
I can work these and that. So then you get these young guys that hop on and they can do all the stuff. You say, hey, go 2 laps, push this, do that, do this, pull that lever, use the rear brake with your finger, and they're able to do it like the MotoGP guys,
It's like basically it's like trying to teach an old person computer shit.
Yeah, an iPhone.
Right? So.
Yeah, try and teach our paddock Morelli.
Wow.
Yeah. There was actually some Morelli guys. I guess there are some Italian dudes that came by that are going to do some courses maybe.
Oh, wow.
For guys that want to learn it,
Good.
Yeah.
There needs to be more of that kind of career path.
Well, technology's not going away.
Right.
It's just not, no matter how much, the haters wanted to make it go away. I don't want to mention their names, I don't get in any trouble, but those guys, what I'm talking about, they would love the technology to go backwards. Yes. Get in trouble all the time. Stupid t-shirts and stuff like that.
Yeah, all that.
It sounds fun when we're talking about it, but then it's like, you get shit out afterwards.
I have been on the receiving end of some one-way conversations.
Yeah. Anyway, there's some guys who are living old school, really old school, and all they can think about is this racing, make as much money as possible. So therefore, I will not spend a penny more than I have to. So if I can influence the rules to make it all cheaper for me, then that's better. That's higher income for me. So I think that's kind of narrow-sighted.
Right.
That's all.
Right.
Yeah. To me, racing is more fun than just money.
I think. It's just more fun to look at cool stuff. I mean, nobody wants to.
It's way more fun to play with cool stuff.
Well, yeah, but as a fan, when you're walking the paddock and you see a bike, what's cooler to look at? A bike that you can basically buy from the showroom, and it's not a whole lot different except for bodywork and suspension, and like maybe a pipe, or would it be cooler to look at the crazy swing arms and all the shit?
You mean this thing?
Stuff like that, exactly. Look at that.
Isn't this the coolest thing ever? We just got these brakes. I've been asking for them for a year. So finally, after I went to Portimao, I had a chat with Franco's. They didn't want to release them to the U.S., even though they're on the homologation sheet. So I'm like, dude, you got to sell it to us because it's on the sheet. We're supposed to be able to buy these things. Right. And so finally, I was able to get them. These are the coolest things ever. The little Stablis. They got little titanium Stablis. These are the anti-drag little pistons over here.
Nice.
And we put these on the bikes, and both guys came in and like, holy crap, those brakes are awesome. And then after qualifying, Jake's like, for the race, maybe we should take those things off because I'm just not used to them. I don't know how hard I can pull the lever. I'm stopping too hard. So he actually asked, we're talking about more natural.
Right.
And so, I mean, these things are just so cool. I think Chiquero ordered some of these. I think you got to order them in advance. And like I said, we've been waiting a long time for them. But anyway, they got the fins on them. These are the real deal World Superbike MotoGP calipers. Pretty freaking cool.
Those are the same calipers Stop Rack uses, right?
Yes, and he pulls a lot of bar with those calipers. They actually had us put a little, well, this is not the one, but they had put a little heat strip on there. And we didn't even record any heat on the stupid things.
Really?
It stops so hard. Like that, we were running a R5 front tire. Then we went to an R7, I think, front tire. So the thing's so hard, it just can't take the kind of braking that you do. If we had one of the, like maybe the Pirelli fronts from World Superbike, I bet you could pull a lot of bar with it and get that bike to stop hard. So anyway, cool calipers. That was one of the things we had brand new for that race, and no time to use them basically. So
right.
If we used them all the first session, maybe we'd been okay. But Cameron's like, my hand's fucked up, so I guess did I say effed up? Effed up. So he's like, maybe it would be better for me. Yeah. And maybe it'll just be better for me, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so race two, the boys did a lot better, and obviously we broke even there with Cam Bovier uh, having a DNF, and we came back out of the. You guys came back out of the weekend with the points lead again, right?
Yeah, because we gave up something like 13. We were like 20 something up. So I think we just went back maybe 4 or 5 points, something like
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah.
Finish
Did
what,
you see?
fourth
Did
and
you see the
fifth?
pass? Did you see the pass Jake put on both cams, the opening
Yes,
laps?
yes.
Man, he pushed them aside like they were club racers.
Yeah.
Like what the hell? Cameron Peterson's like, I didn't think he was gonna make it. I thought for
He's
sure he'd run wide and off the track.
he's something, man. Like that dude is he's
Yeah.
all business, right? All the time.
Well, I think that's one of the things that when he was a racer before, right?
Yeah,
And then he started winning all these races from the front,
yeah,
and so you kind of get out of the rhythm of racing with other people if you're just checking out every race, right?
right,
Like Matt Miladin was that way. He would win from the front, and as soon as somebody challenged him, he would not know how to ride. His bike was set up to where it would be fine by itself, but he couldn't accelerate once somebody stopped him in the middle of the corner.
right.
You know, if he could do the laps by himself, he went incredibly fast. If somebody ruined his rhythm, he couldn't do it. So I think Jake is getting himself back into the I can fight with anyone type mentality. You know.
Right.
So yeah, so it was Bobier, Peterson, and Jake, and then he just slammed it right in there and passed both guys in one shot.
Yeah.
Pretty fun to watch.
It
And then
is.
Cameron, I mean, with a broken hand, I mean, he has I shouldn't say broken because then now Motormaker's like, oh, you can't ride because you have a broken hand. But with his injured wrist,
Yeah.
he's got some little crack in there, But anyway, it's a loose screw, but we all have loose screws anyway. So with his injured wrist, I mean, he was able to do lap per lap with Jake, which is pretty good.
There's
I think on the last lap, I think he passed him, and then Jake passed coming down the front straight.
well, there was a lot of commentary about this, and there's a couple of comments here on the show, but um, whether or not there was team orders or whatever, asking why Cam didn't pass Jake.
Team orders. We're only on round 3, aren't we? Team
Right.
orders. Come on.
Yeah.
We didn't have team orders last year at New Jersey.
Right.
And I don't think we had team orders up until the last race of Barber just to see what Petrucci would do. So Yamaha's not really like that. They want unless it's down the last point, they just let it play out.
Right. Well, I mean, I talked to Will after the race, and Will said that that Cam did a little bit of a wheelie, and that was just enough to where he couldn't get.
Tell Will he doesn't know anything.
Well,
No, actually, it's true. He,
yeah,
he he got a little crossed up over that rise, and that was just enough for Jake to pass him before the start finish.
yeah,
Lost
yeah.
some of his momentum. Yeah, that's true.
So, do you want to whip up that data and show the
Oh
cross
yeah, sure,
sections?
man. Yeah, sure.
Because we're all
Getting
about
pretty.
props here on the GMB.
Yeah, so I got to share the data. Yeah. So what do you want to see as far as the data goes?
I wanted to see that like mile an hour difference.
I can show you the lean angle difference.
There you go.
Yeah, all right, you
Lean
see
angle
it?
I don't see it just yet. Now I see it. Yeah.
Okay, so let me just get my screen all aligned here so you can see it. So this here shows 2022, 23, both dry races, and the R8 rear tire and versus the which is the R3, which is the 129 from the previous year. I can't remember what they call it, super duper extra soft or some
Right.
words they had for it, but it was basically the equivalent of R3. So you can see throttle setting pretty much the same, like
Yeah.
he's smacking the throttle open the way it is. But here is lean angle. So the blue was 2022, 2023. Red was 2022.
Oh wow.
And down here at this bottom level is a slip. So it tells you how much sliding and spinning you're doing, right? So you can see the red is much higher in some spots. A
Last
lot of
year.
slipping and spinning, right?
Yeah.
Whereas on the blue, it's pretty damn hooked up. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, you're open the throttle full, and the thing is hooked up. And this is why the BMW was so strong. So let's go over the carousel. So I mean, we can look at it from corner to corner. You can see more lean angle in 1 and 2 and 5 and all that. You know. So then we get to the carousel, which everyone seems to focus on. This was an area of a problem for us. This was an area where the riders complained the most, and that was the entry of the carousel. And I'm sure Wyman said the same thing, right? So you can see where the
He was
lefty
saying that he
before the
locked
right.
up the brakes on the way, or, you know.
Yeah, well, that was you can do that just straight up and down because the
Yeah.
front tire was so hard,
Yeah.
and you had to run a pretty hard front tire to actually fix some of that lockup because the soft tire would squirm a little bit and it would cause it to slide,
Oh,
like grip slide, grip slide, grip slide. So it would do one of these things, and it made the rider super uncomfortable grabbing the brakes. Where the hard tire kind of compressed and stayed, but even then still had a little bit of turning the bars on the way in. You like wanting to close the bars. So then you look at the entry of the carousel. The blue line is this year, and you can see the entry is much more gentle. You didn't flop it over on the side so quick because area of unknowns. Whereas last year you go right to that lean angle and carry that same lean angle all the way across and accelerate out. But with this thing, it's like I don't know how much I can lean it over because the back end's moving around going in. So like, is it gonna spin around on me or what's going on? And so then you get the lean angle, like, oh, I can keep leaning over, leaning over, leaning over, leaning over, and accelerate full throttle with it fully leaned over. So if you think about it, yeah, you're at full throttle right there, right?
Yeah.
And that lean angle is 62 degrees, full throttle.
Wow.
Yeah. So last year, you know, he does the Jake snap right here, where it goes to more straight up and down. So you're getting full throttle last year at, what are we getting there? 49 degrees. You know, so you think about it, it's like that track was hooked up, and that's why it was such a big deal for anybody with horsepower, big horsepower.
Yeah, I mean,
Now, big horsepower is sorry.
on the broadcast, Greg White was talking about the pavement and some kind of synthetic polymer or something that they use.
Yeah, I mean, the thing was like glue.
Like
But
every
it
track
again,
has
it
to do
did
that.
it didn't benefit it didn't benefit our bikes because we're so good at tracks that have limited grip.
Right.
Yeah. So and then you can see here out, and you try to open the throttle to full, right? This year the blue wasn't hardly spinning. Little tiny spins.
Wow.
See that little lump right there?
Yeah.
That's last year steering. That's the bike spinning from the rear, sliding from the rear, accelerating, and causing the rear to. So you had to change. So with the limited sessions, you had to kind of refocus your entry so you can get a certain kind of exit with full grip. You follow what I'm saying? Like if you can't steer with the rear, then you got to point the bike. So if I did an overlay with the different types of corners, it was the carousel was more of a triangle type. You know, run it out, run it back in. Remember Big Willow, where you could hug the inside of turn 2, or you could run it out and then come back in. It was more of the run it out and come back in type line in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah. So it was, and here if you go back to the entry, which is this area right here where he chops the throttle goes in, you can see how much full throttle he was using last year to go into the corner. Where this year he was kind of like, I'm not sure. So he'd roll off, and then he'd lay it in there gently before it got grip, before it sat back on the rear tire. A lot of the complaining was, I don't feel like I have enough mass on the rear tire in the carousel. Like I can't get the things settled. So I think if we had that first day, a proper first day, by the time we got to the race, we would have been a little further along with that, and our lap times would have gone down, and the straightaway would not have been as much of an issue.
Yeah.
Because we could have got through all the corners better and made up a lot of lap time in the corners. As it was, we didn't have a lot of time in the corners, and so the straightaway became the battlefield.
So
Make sense?
Yeah. So I mean, what you showed there with Jake's data, I mean, that kind of leads to the reason why all the lap records broke, right? I mean,
oh yeah. I mean,
I think
again, so here's
Superbike
another.
lap record was broken like lap after lap by multiple riders, right?
Yep. Yeah. So everyone's getting their head around how that. Okay, back to it. And you see anything else?
No, I think we're good, man.
Everybody's getting their heads around how much can I push on the tires,
Yeah,
how much can I lean it over, how hard can I enter the corner. Race two for us was really race one.
yeah.
I remember after qualifying on Saturday and going to the race, I said, well, we just got the first day out of the way. We were already racing.
Yeah,
It was like a two-day test for us.
yeah. Yeah, I was talking to Jake's dad, and he's like, yeah, at the start of race one, Jake had 9 laps for the weekend total. So,
Yeah,
and then he
and we
only
didn't
got,
test there.
and he only
We
got
didn't
what,
test there.
5?
I don't make it not to test there. We knew it was going to be cold and crappy, but it might have been worth something to actually get a feel for the pavement if we would have gone up there.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. So, going back to the lap records getting broken, I guess Stefano Mesa, my buddy, though, Mighty Mouse himself, I guess he set the lap record on the 600 on the Cowie, in that
Yeah,
class.
that's the bad part of having a competitive motorcycle year after year. You don't get all the silly little benefits that they're giving these other guys. Like, for instance, the Kawasaki's a 636, has exact same rules as the R6 at 599 cc's,
Right.
right? Has the exact same rules. You could do the little porting thing, you could do all that stuff with a
Yeah.
36 cc's more. So who's going to be fast at a big track like that, right? Back to the back to that track rewarded big power. So it didn't used to be a big power track. I've said that before.
Yeah.
With how fast you got through those corners, all those corners.
Yeah.
And now anybody can get through those corners if you just get the
Huh.
bike's attitude right. Seriously,
Interesting.
like Wyman talking about dragging his elbow on a super
Right.
stock bike,
Right.
right? So that's how much grip that track's got. So if you have big power like a 636 versus a R6, you're gonna leave the R6 behind.
Yeah.
And yeah, that bike is basically an uncorked 636, right? There's no throttle control, there's none of that stuff.
Right.
Yeah. And it's the same thing with Superbike. I know that they gave the Vision X Star M4, whatever they call that team. I can't never remember the whole team's name, but they gave them some special allowances for this race.
Really?
Yeah.
What,
Yeah,
what, what did they
they had
get?
some power up stuff they allowed that team to do different than us.
Really?
Which it's a little bit annoying because we didn't even know about it going into it.
Really?
They said, "Oh yeah, we posted it on the Motor America website, like a bulletin." Like normally those guys send out those guys they tell you when to sneeze and do all that stuff with a memo that they email to everybody, right?
Right.
Hey, this is the last time you can register. Hey, renew your Live Plus. Hey, this is the new schedule. Hey, watch this video. But
What?
when those guys get a little benefit, they're like, "Hey, we're not going to send you that memo."
That's interesting.
Yeah, I
I
don't
wonder
know.
why that
You
is.
know, well, he who cries loudest gets more shit.
Is that right? Well, I
Yeah,
mean,
and, here-
I mean,
and the answer to that is, hey, how come we can't do it? It's like you guys are winning.
oh, interesting.
Like,
So, I mean,
did they look at the
am,
camera shot of the bike
I
going down the straightaway?
am I understanding that this was something that wasn't decided in the Superbike Council? So it was like
Yes,
outside. Interesting.
yes. That's
Hmm.
what they call an allowance.
Okay.
So basically, if you don't win anything and you don't devote 100% to racing superbikes, you get allowances.
Yeah. Is it like those? Is it like the pro ball sports teams that suck on purpose so they could get draft picks or something? Is it something like that?
I don't know. I don't want to suck on purpose just so I can get some type of modification for the bike. So I just keep plugging away what we have, and it's just that you have balancing classes, and then you have superbike. I think we should all be on the same set of rules.
Ah,
I'm not even. We don't have RPM rules. I don't even like the RPM rules in World Superbike. I think you just say, okay, hey, you can only have 6 engines. You can do what you want with the 6 engines as far as RPM goes. And if you know what, if you push them too hard, you blow your engines up. Too bad. Figure out a different way. But with the
okay.
Ducati having 16,000 something RPM or 16,000, I think they chopped it down by 100, and the Yamaha's at 14.9. How's that fair?
Right.
Anybody who knows anything about racing knows RPM is a lot of it. I mean, it's a big part of it. The more RPM you have, the better you can do
Right.
with the gearbox and the whole thing. So I'm not a big fan. It kind of irked me a little bit to hear that some teams are getting special benefits. You
I
know,
mean,
like
do you
how do I
want
get special benefits?
do you want to talk about what the benefit was?
I don't want to get into it. It's just a horsepower making benefit. You know,
Okay,
so it just irks me. That's all.
that sucks.
It's what it is.
That kind of shit sucks some of the fun out of what we're doing too.
Yeah, it bothered me. I have to be honest with you. It's like, you know what? We try that hard to put the bikes up front. We have our ups and downs like any other team, and we just push, 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 work really hard, and then, somebody goes, "Oh, we've done all we can with our bike, so therefore we need something to help us go up front." And then the series goes, "Yeah, well, we need more bikes up front." I understand that. I don't know if that's the solution, is to tweak tweak things by the performance of a team, you know?
Right, right. I don't
You
know.
know, because
That kind of stuff. I heard that was a thing from before, but I thought that as a group, all the Superbike team owners had this Superbike council thing, and I thought,
all it is a suggestion. I'm sure
yeah,
if you went into a meeting and said, "Hey, I'm going to get a special something," is everybody okay with that? Everybody'd be like, "Boo,"
yeah,
you know?
right,
I don't know. I'm over it. We'll just go back and get to the tracks we know we're going to do good at, or whatever, try to do good at, and we'll
yeah.
just smash everyone as much as we can.
That's always your goal, right?
It motivates me more, actually.
Yeah. Okay.
So keep it coming. Give them big bore
Perfect.
kits. I don't care. It just motivate me more.
Right on.
I don't know.
So,
I'd be embarrassed to say, "Oh, by the way, I got the little special something because we suck."
okay.
I don't know. Now I'm getting myself in trouble.
Hey, just to be clear, you said it, not me.
I know. You know what? I don't even care.
Uh, so I've got some comments from people coming in. Pinky says last week we talked about rider mentality, and
Yep.
a rider was on the podium this last weekend, and during his interview, it seemed like he doubts that he can win against their teammate. So, what do you think?
There was a rider on the podium, and he said he doubts he could win. He could beat his teammate.
Yeah, he doubts he could beat his teammate, basically.
Wow, that's not a rider that really wants to win, huh?
Oh shit. Okay.
I heard something similar from.
And he also says, "Do you think this mentality is becoming the new norm?"
mm, I think some guys can break the mindset of other people. Like I've heard that with people said talking about that with Jake or with Cameron Bobia before that. Like,
Right.
there's no way I'm going to beat that guy.
Right.
But they don't, then they forget that guy is just a human being. He just happens to have all his stuff together. So why don't you
Yeah.
work a little harder to get all your stuff together? But there is some what we talked about, natural talent or skill. Like we talked about Hayes, he would tell you, "Oh, I'm not the most talented guy, but I worked at it really, really hard to get there."
Right.
So you got 4 championships out of it, right? Four
Yeah.
Superbike championships. So because he worked really hard at it. And
Yeah.
so people want to work hard at it, they're going to get some success. I don't know what level of success, but I don't think anybody should ever say, "I can never beat my teammate." I think that's the idea, right? Is to beat your teammate.
Right. Right. And then yeah, there's some people like 100 points at throttle, or 100% throttle at 62 degrees of lean angle. What the, WTF?
Yeah, well, that's what these things do nowadays, especially
Yeah.
with that kind of surface. Dude, if the
Wow.
MotoGP bikes were that track, it'd be ridiculous lap times. It'd be sub twos. They'd be doing what do we do, 208, something like
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
They'd probably be doing a minute 50 something, maybe
No
faster.
shit.
Yeah,
Wow.
they'd be at least 10 seconds faster, I bet.
Do you
At
think
least.
that repave? Do you think that the track has MotoGP in mind?
I hope so.
Dude, that would be
That'd be
cool.
a great, I mean, we talked about that forever about MotoGP at Road America. How awesome would that be?
Yeah.
I mean, the place is a really cool place as far as it's just, The only thing about Road America is I don't know if it could handle, maybe it could, but the hotels and all that stuff, I don't know if it could handle a MotoGP style, even paddock.
Yeah.
They would suck up all the hotels all the way to Milwaukee, I think. You
Yeah.
know,
You're
you'd be
probably
driving an
right.
hour just to get to the race.
Because that builds up some hotels too.
Yeah, you'd be staying at Fond du Lac or someplace, all the way up to Green
Just
Bay, maybe. I
Airbnb
don't
at
know.
some dude's ranch or whatever.
There are a lot of houses up there, and a lot of people Airbnb in Elkhart Lake.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Right on. And then, what common scenario? This is Alex, by the way. Alex wants to know what common scenarios / rider feedback would lead you to make damping clicker change. I almost never touch my compression rebound, but I always make spring preload geometry changes.
Hmm. Yeah, there's a number of different scenarios. I mean, it's all balancing act, right, between clickers and springs and how the rider's feeling is on the motorcycle. Sometimes it's some riders want to feel the bumps and other riders don't want to feel the bumps. And sometimes you want to cover the bumps a certain way to get the most amount of grip, and other times you don't want to cover that. And for instance, here's an example. So we were on a certain setting part of last year for the rear shock, and then Cameron Peterson would change direction pretty aggressively with his legs, and then the bike would squat, slide, and then point in a different direction on the direction change. So it was one of his complaints. So we had to change the damping because that is a damping action. You can go really stiff springs, but you're still going to get some movement. So when you do that sudden direction change, you're getting that whole squat thing, slowing it down, and so you don't get as much motion on the high speed side of that shock. Let's say you don't
Right.
get as much motion, so you put a little bit of the motion into the tire, but you'll stop some of the chassis from overshooting the position.
Right.
So those are the times where you want to mess with the damping, things like that. But then you got to think about the rest of the track. Also, like if I fix this area, what do I do with the rest of the track?
Hmm.
Because obviously shocks aren't sectorized like electronics. You can't say I want a shock that does this only in this one corner. So you always have a balancing act between, okay, it's good here, it's going to be better everywhere else. So you get out your little track map and you make little pluses and minuses. It's good here, bad here, good here, bad here. How is it here, here, and here? And a good chassis guy can go, okay, yep, if we do this, it should be able to bolster all these areas, or it'll hurt some of these areas. So maybe I need to come up with a different tactic,
Hmm.
different strategy. Look at velocities on the data, and you go, okay, this is the velocity window I want to work in, and you find a damping curve that fits that window and tries to affect that one little spot, let's say.
Hmm.
Could be a shim change and a clicker change.
Yeah, that's like basically talk to your suspension dude.
Yeah, you're probably not changing enough stuff.
Okay. There's a Bearded Jixer says the Vision Wheel team worked with M4 on some new exhaust upgrades to create more horsepower.
Yeah, they got something that was always a no-go in the rules.
Okay.
So, and every time, I mean, this is the part that irks me the most, is every time that we talked about it, way back when, AMA days on, they said, nope, that's not an area where you guys can play. It's a safety issue.
Safety issue.
Yeah, that was a safety issue.
Okay.
They've always said that. They're like, no, it's not a safety issue. I mean, I don't care that they have it. Fine, whatever. They just should open up the rest of it, the rest of us.
Hmm.
MotoGP does it. I think the Moto2 doesn't do it, but the guys who cheat probably do. You know, so
Right.
it's been a cheating point, I think, from a number of teams over the years
Yeah.
that sneak it in there somehow, and they just said, hey, you can go ahead and do it. It's like, well, their bikes are not slow to start with. They got to work on the chassis and suspension and develop the rider and all those things. Go test and get their bikes happening that way, and not get little benefits.
Yeah.
I'm not running their team. I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. But
So,
it's good. It's good. I mean, I'm happy that Escalante was up there.
dude,
You
Escalante,
know.
I like that guy a lot. I've been following that dude since he was racing, since Benny would go down to Mexico and race him when he was a teenager.
Yeah.
That guy's been around for a minute, man. Like he's pretty young, but he's got a
I tell you,
ton of
your
experience.
microphone's weak.
Did you? Do I need to speak up more?
Yes, you do.
Oh man. Yeah, maybe just because I'm just a quiet dude.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Okay. So, what about Cam P? Do you think he needs to punt someone from time to time, be a bit more aggressive? That sounds like some Stefano Mesa shit. Like sometimes you got to get aggressive to
Yeah,
take somebody out.
I think that Laguna last year proved he wasn't about to be bullied because remember when Petrucci went and slammed into him and then pushed him off the track?
Yeah, yeah,
And then he just came back underneath them and pushed him away.
yeah,
So sometimes he needs to be roughed up a little bit, but yeah, he's a pretty clean rider, you know?
yeah.
I mean, he's not Heron. Heron said himself in an interview, he said, "Oh, I'm really looking forward to Superbike. I'm sure something." I'm paraphrasing. But he said something to the effect of, "You know, I'm sure I'll bring some drama to the class because I'm always seem to be in the middle of it, or something
Right.
to that effect."
Yeah,
And yes, he's always because he always tries to push it somewhere where it doesn't fit or tries
right.
real hard. Even when I was working with him, I mean, if you work with him and he's trying that hard, it's kind of a plus. If you're not
Yeah.
working with him, he's trying that hard, it's kind of not a plus. You know, I think was it race one? I think race one he got next to Bovier, just about pushed him off the racetrack, and then Campy was basically in that little thing too, and got pushed way wide too, and that's why I ended up back in the position he was. If he was able to go with the guys up front, then I think he could the lack of time on the racetrack could have been better for him because he would have learned a little quicker through the
Mm,
race. You know, if he could hang on to someone, he'd go, "Oh, this guy can go into the carousel this deep. I can do it too."
mm.
Yeah.
The Blue Avenger asks, how do we get Moto America back to the fan base and factory support of the 90s? Like, is Moto America the issue or is something else? Dude, I think Moto America is doing a pretty good job. I mean,
I think so too. I think the racing's been pretty damn good.
dude,
You
this
know,
season's
except
been the
for
best racing Moto America's had since they've started it in Superbike.
I don't know. I think race one was a bit of a boredom, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Race
there
two
were
was a little
three rounds
better.
in, dude. Like,
Race one, I mean, race one at Road America. I think the opening laps was good, but then it got into a procession. You
right,
know, I can't remember where it was. I think I said, "Oh, here we go. We're boring again." But
right.
we've had some pretty good racing. You know, and the competition's pretty stiff. I like that. Um, I think there's more Superbike teams now, and so I think that I hear of other people wanting to get involved in Superbike. That's going to open up some more rides, and it's going to be harder to get a good rider.
Good.
Because they're going to be sucked up pretty quick, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I think that's the way. I don't know about factory budgets. I hear a little bit of gossip about maybe somebody else jumping back into it. So I'm not sure,
Like, did you
and
hear Honda?
but I mean I'm not a privy to all the information. So, but I hear a little bit of jargon with that, something like that. Might be Honda. I mean they're in World Superbike, right? So
Right.
and the racing is pretty good here, and it's pretty competitive. And you've got the BMW, the Ducati. I mean, if you get Honda and you have Yamaha, who's left? Kawasaki. Who cares about them? So
Right.
you know, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
What else do you need? VR thousands? I mean, way back in the day.
Harley VR thousands? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Bring back Pascal Picat
Wow.
and
Wow.
yeah, Scott Russell.
Scott Russell, yeah. That's right. Oh man, that's funny. Okay, so let's see here. Uh, do you know the reason why there was no VIR race this year?
uh, Man, I don't know. I
I heard
mean,
they
I
rented.
know
I heard they
I know when
rented
they
the track
had
to
the
drift cars or something.
yeah, when I know when they had the big hurricane in the Gulf, and we had our trucks over there at VIR, and they had to cancel the event, and the people at VIR were super pissed. That was like, what was that, 2005 or something?
Mm.
When was Katrina? Five,
Yeah,
four,
oh 05.
five, yeah. So we had our trucks over there, and then AMA canceled, and then We didn't, VIR was pissed. They spent all that money
Yeah.
to promote the thing or whatever. And I think a similar thing might have happened this last go around, and something didn't jive, and they gave away the AMA date or the Motor America date.
Okay.
Do I hear? So something just didn't work out with regards to that management in Motor America.
Right on. And
Yeah.
then let's see, they were talking about the Aprilia. Yeah, Pinky was like, can the new Aprilia 1100 make the grid?
I don't think it's allowed.
Oh, because it's 1100.
Yeah.
Because the
I don't know.
Ducati V4 originally was an 1100, right, or a 1200, and then
Yeah, but they had to make a leader bike.
they went down to 1000 to make it for Superbike, right?
Yeah, yeah, but I think that was a twin though.
The V4, the original V4 was big. It wasn't
Oh,
that
I didn't keep up with all the
Camming
generations.
Co's
I
got
thought you were talking about
versions.
the twin before the V4.
the V4.
Aren't you not talking about the Aprilia?
No, dude, I'm talking about
The Ducati?
The Ducati V4 was bigger, and then they made 1000 to make Superbike. They
Yeah, I
raced
don't
the
remember that,
twin in Superbike at that time, and
but
then
they raced the twin and they went to so they made it big.
they had a
I
bigger
don't remember
V4,
that,
yeah.
but whatever. I probably wasn't paying that much attention to it.
Yeah, I mean, I rode Cammings.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You're probably right. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Let's see. Matty Testa says World Superbike's in the process of homologating the Aprilia. So, if that happens, then it would be allowed in Motor America, right?
I don't know.
Mm.
They tend to make up a little bit their own rules, so I'm not sure.
Okay, and then
I mean, World Superbike's gone down that path too, where they have every manufacturer gets a little to overcome their weaknesses. Like I think BMW was getting a special frame or special steering head mod last year. I don't know what they're getting this year. They call them super concessions, and I'm not really a big fan of that. But I guess they do that to bring the racing closer. So they've taken kind of that page out of that book. But if you look at so every year, every few years they develop a new motorcycle. Somebody does, right? And it's a little faster than the other ones.
yeah,
So the Yamaha's getting, it's been around for quite a while. So the development on the Yamaha is pretty played out. It's still a fast motorcycle. It still can win championships. It's won just about everything in the last decade. I think with exception of one that Yoshimura won. So it's got a really great track record. It's a really great motorcycle. Handles well, kind of like the R6. Hard to beat that R6 Indy Club race.
yeah,
It's got a solid chassis, got a great engine, all that stuff. But you end up with these bikes that are faster. And then they say, "Oh, my chassis doesn't work." Or this, now they get a super concession. Well, you already got a freaking rocket, and then you get a super concession on the frame too.
yeah,
Where we're like, "Oh, you guys are winning too much, so we're not going to give you anything." So you end up with this war with the series on super concessions.
yeah.
You're always trying to lobby the tech guys on super concessions. Oh, we need this, we suck. Oh, we need this, we suck. We played everything out. We did everything we can. So we need a super special whatever.
Right.
Not into it.
Not into the super concessions.
Not really.
Okay.
Designed it right the first go around.
Yeah. Okay.
But I understand the logic of it. I totally get it. If a factory designs a bad bike, they give them a super concession, and then they can able to race that thing. It kind of keeps the factory from designing a better bike next go around.
Yeah.
They're like, well, we don't have to change this bike for another few years because we have super concessions. So we might as well, in racing, we'll be fine with our special frame that they allowed. And on the production bike, there won't be any special frame. It'll be the same crappy frame you always had.
Right.
That's the way it is. That's,
Yeah.
what I mean? There's two sides of that super concession game.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, Bob Adams has a comment, and he's like, sport bike sales have never been lower. People need to stop looking back to 20 years ago and focus on now and beyond, and that's not Moto America's problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what the sales are.
I don't either. And then he
Just
says,
the gearhead, racing motorcycles.
Yeah, I mean, Blue Avenger says win on Sunday, sell on Monday. You could say that's a little bit of Motor America's problem. If we start selling on Monday, what? We'd win back factory support.
You know, we met with a number of Yamaha dealers in the area. They came by and they did a tour of the truck, and they toured the Westby truck, toured our truck. They went around to various, look at the R7s, this and that, and they were all very grateful we were racing because that helped them legitimize their sales.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So that was just a handful of dealers.
Okay.
You would say that's probably a little small survey of what the guys on the ground who are selling to the public, what they say about the racing.
Okay.
So that's what I know. I mean, you can throw your hands up and go, "Oh, we're all done." I remember in the UK they were talking about. I was talking to Paul Bird guys. You know Paul Bird, the team.
Yeah, the Cowie guys.
Yeah, so they raced BSB World Superbike. They did MotoGP also when there were CRT bikes. So I know those guys fairly well. I'm not like buddies with them, texting them every minute, but I know them fairly well. I've been to the shop, I've gone to dinner, blah, blah, blah. So talking to them, they're like, yeah, we're not selling any sport bikes in the UK. Everybody's on those venture bikes and sit-up bikes, this and that. Well, that's all great for the street, but guess what? BSB's still racing sport bikes.
Yeah.
And they still have teams, and they still have TV, and they still have all that stuff. So
Right.
do I know the proper equation to get it all done? No, I don't know. I just know if they still let me race, I'll go racing.
So 848 Evo says that he hears that you like Porsches. Which
I like
Porsche do you
Porsches?
have?
I have a 996 Turbo S,
Manual.
ceramic brakes and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, it's an older one. I like to buy a new one, but they keep updating them so often now that, those things used to be like you buy one and they're great for a long time.
Yeah.
But the Porsche thing's kind of went down a little bit in value. Now it's going crazy up. I think I can sell mine for the same price I bought it for. It's amazing. You look on there, but it's a pretty cool car. I mean, the thing about Porsches are you can beat the crap out of it and it'll still keep on going.
Yeah.
I mean, you could drive that thing every day. You couldn't do it with a Ferrari. You could drive it down the block. You'd let the clutch out and the thing breaks. So with a Porsche, I mean, you could spin the tires. You could drive that thing like a lunatic, and it'll just keep on trucking.
Donuts.
All of that.
Yeah. Right on.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, people are like, how do you sell on Monday when most dealers are closed on Monday?
Yeah, that's an old saying, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, because they sell on Saturday and Sunday.
Right.
Yeah, dealers don't go. See, back in the day, I think dealers went racing. They all had some type of race bike.
Pinky wants to know who the rider is on the poster behind you on the top of the cabinet.
That guy? The fat dude back there?
Yeah, that big fat guy. Who's that?
Yeah, I don't know. Some fat dude says TrackDaz on the side of the bike.
Oh shit, that's me. Like 40 pounds ago.
And that's our Daytona bike over there.
Yes.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Those are all like #1 plates, see, from our... This is why we don't get super concessions, because we get those things.
Okay, do you think, Bob Adams, do you think the BMWs have more of an aero advantage, or is it just raw horsepower?
Both?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, those
Get
things
the
look like
3D
gold.
printer out. Make some fucking wings for that thing.
They don't let you.
Oh yeah, because they don't have stuff.
Yeah, no super concessions there. Yeah, I don't know, but I can just tell you this much: when we were talking about the transmission rules,
Right.
Bobby from HSBK said, "I'd like to go to the World Superbike rules because the Yamahas have a wind tunnel tested fender, and that's the biggest thing ever." So he was talking about our fender that we wind tunnel tested way back when we were at Kawasaki, same fender. And the fender rules were open. So we're like, all right, go. Now we had to go get fenders from Europe that were homologated from the World Superbike team. And of course, they had a backlog of work. It took us 4 months to get some fenders. We put them on the bikes, whatever. It doesn't matter. Still break track records, win races, Yeah. So, but the BMW shows up and it's got a homologation special fender. The thing like wraps around the fork and wraps around the bottom of it. You can't even see the calipers kind of thing.
Yeah.
The thing's a total Moto 2 fender. So what happened to fender rule? It was like you threw it out the window when you got the full-on ringer BMW.
Right.
So it's gonna be really interesting to see top rack on that thing.
Yeah, yeah. It's
No one's been able to get it done. I mean, they put Redding on it. He's not doing anything with it. You know, they've put quite a few. The Vandermark, and he's a winner. World Superbike. And can't do anything with it. Garrett seems to be doing okay with it. Gerloff. So.
Right. Top rack.
I know Bobby won't go back to Europe, you know, but now he's a father and all, but man, it should be interesting if he was in World Superbike with that thing.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
so
I'm a big fan of him.
Your next stop is a couple weeks at the Ridge, right?
Yeah.
So any new plans for that, or?
Yeah, Jake will actually ride these calipers.
Oh, well, there's that. Right on.
Yeah, no, that's it.
All right.
I probably pissed off a fair share of people, but whatever.
Nah, whatever. They'll get over it, or they will grudge it, whatever.
Oh yeah.
Well, right on, man. I'm gonna let you get back to work. Your room's getting darker and darker over there.
Yeah, I just got every time I turn on these lights, it just like blares everything out from the back. So I just figured, screw it, we'll just work with the lights off.
Right on. Well, you know what? I'm gonna let you get back to whatever you're getting back to. Thanks for all your time tonight, man. That was fun. It's interesting too. Like very nerdy, like shit. I have to go back and watch some of that stuff.
Yeah, shut up. I don't watch it again. I just go on to the next thing. All right, man. Talk to you later.
Yep.